So I've known Rich for over 20 years, but about 2 weeks ago, I listened to his audiobook and I called him and told him right away that I have a whole new understanding and outlook on his life that I hope we can somehow weave in to his answers today. Rich has become, without question, one of the most, if not the most, consequential figures in sports today. He's changed the business, has inspired a ton of young people around the world to believe that it's possible, simply that it's possible. Can we jump to today, please, so everyone in the crowd can understand exactly what Klutch is, all the different parts of it, and how robust the business is today?
Well, today, as you said, the biggest thing I think that I'm most proud of is that inspiration, allowing kids to have an example of who they could be that doesn't necessarily mean you have to actually play the sport, because we all grew up trying to be the athlete, and today they have a different example. But today we represent over 500 athletes across 4 sports. You see, we just announced a lot of our sponsorships that we're doing with actually franchises. Many don't know we do a lot of the patchwork within the NBA. I think we did 4 or 5 teams already there. In addition to today, my day consists of mainly outside of the clients that I represent, acquisitions, really identifying companies that can help us scale to the level that we've gotten to today, in addition to expand around the globe, as you saw with the acquisition alongside of my partnership with UTA, with the company Roof, that's a German-based company with 150 footballers, right? And so I never thought I would be here today, and we've known each other a long time, going back many, many years. But part of my being here today is I also never sat in my success. And I think that's extremely important as you become more and more successful and actually redefining what success actually means. Because I think as you become more and more successful, there's an evolution of a definition of what that actually is. Mm-hmm. And what I thought success was September 12th, 2012, when I first started Klutch, and what I know success is today is 2 totally different things.
A lot of times when people do achieve a level of success, they talk a bit about their upbringing and they attribute some of it to that. They talk about the experiences that they came up in the work world through. And I know that you did do some of those learnings, but when I read your book, it was clear to me that the expertise that you achieved was majority of it from your childhood. What did you see from what you experienced growing up, as well as the time that you worked at other agencies and other companies, that you understood what the void was and also understood what the opportunity was? Because what I thought was very interesting was that the original Klutch logo was designed within a globe, which obviously indicated that you knew that you had an ability to take something global, but you were starting from scratch, which, as we both have talked about, from very non-traditional backgrounds.
Yeah, look, I mean, the globe aspect of it was an aspiration, right? Having a vision. And I think growing up, you were in such a chaotic environment that all you had really to really stand on was this hope and this dream. And so the globe, we were very local when that
Cleveland,
that logo was created. But if you notice, it's a hand gripping the world and around the globe. And if you look at my resume, you would say, oh, well, he did this and he learned this at a previous agency and so on and so forth. That couldn't be more incorrect. Actually, most of the things I attribute to my success today came from, one, having a great example of my dad, who got up every day and worked for the lowest margins you can ever imagine. We sold beer, wine, cigarettes, and candy. And that's where I learned math on the lottery machine. And the most important thing I learned was customer service, because this is a service industry that we work in. And then also, it allowed me to gain perspective through the lens of all types of walks of life, which created this relatability that's holistic. I can relate in any environment in front of me. And so those things now help me in the boardrooms and in the, negotiation rooms, and we were just trying to get back home most days, and so that negotiation is a lot different than negotiating with the Golden State Warriors. But in addition to that, being very observant, I was extremely observant and extremely respectable to those that wasn't in the quote-unquote decision-making positions. And then now a lot of those people are now in those decision-making positions, and how I conducted myself, how I approached them, how I approached just the position I was in and where I wanted to go has allowed me to be successful. Because you don't get here by yourself, by the way.
Yeah.
I've had a tremendous amount of help in a very, unconventional way. And we talk all the time. I think some of the things we've exercised amongst each other when you're in that, not competition space, but when you're in the industry, to have the wherewithal to pick up the phone and say, hey man, here's how I did it, or man, what'd you think about this?
Yep.
That's a very mature thing to do in business, especially in a very immature industry like the representation business.
Did you see that the industry had flaws? Because when you started, you had a ton of headwinds. People challenged you. People questioned your credentials, and people thought you had an easy road. I would imagine that the childhood that you went through, taking those headwinds on was nothing, because it always appeared to me that your confidence never wavered. But you must have known while those headwinds were coming at you that there was an opportunity, that you saw something in the agency world, that you saw something in the representation world that maybe wasn't broken, but that needed to innovate for these young people that needed a different approach.
Yeah, you're right. Like my upbringing compared to the agent world was like Magic Mountain. But you're right, it wasn't broken, but it also wasn't put together. And what I saw, the white space in the industry, was I saw athletes being represented by people that pretended to care, never educated, right? And didn't really understand the communities that they came from and how to relate to them. And so I leaned into that because I played high school ball, I was on the state championship team. Thank God I was not the best player by far. Practice player, I was pretty good.
You could shoot it though.
But because of that, it allowed me to have a different approach. It allowed me to have this humility amongst the guys that were the better players. And it allowed me to really talk to my teammates from a place of truth, because I'm not playing the game anyway, so it's not going to affect me. I'm not worried about you passing me the ball or not. And that allowed me to develop, it really did. And then as I transitioned into the professional space and spending time with guys, I just had a knack for people. And then I understood I could speak the language of the game, but then also understanding business. And many people think like, oh, he was LeBron's friend, LeBron gave him a job, and blah, blah, blah. Look, he did give me an opportunity that I'm extremely appreciative of, but that wasn't representing him. I didn't get my opportunity to represent him until his ninth year in the business or in the league. And prior to that, there was a lot of sacrifices made. I missed a lot of things, boat trips, the whole nine, because I was out trying to carve my own niche. And when you talk about the challenges came from a place of, I think, people were they didn't know what to expect, right? They were very insecure, they were very entitled, they were very comfortable in a space in which the athlete would never look at somebody who has a chain on and looks like me, or and actually think that they could do business at a high level or advise me in a way in which I'm willing to listen. That had never been the case, because most athletes had always looked down upon the quote-unquote friend or the homie or whatever. And I made it to where, no, there's gonna be a respect there, and then there's gonna be a discovery like, oh, actually, there's a value add there. And I didn't know it all by far. especially not about our industry. But what I did know is, I knew the basics, and I can build from there. And so that was extremely helpful.
And you talked about your team earlier. I found it interesting. I heard you say once that your company is black-owned but women-led.
Yeah, look, black-led, now women-led, but again, not making it about race. We started there, right? I started, Fair and I started together. She was the first staff member, and we had a conscience about certain things, and I wanted to make sure that we had diversity. I wanted to make sure that we were giving opportunities, to not just giving opportunities away, but really allowing people to have an opportunity to work with us that may not necessarily have the quote-unquote qualifications through a piece of paper, but what was their character like? Because we're in the representation business, so if you know how to code, that's not going to necessarily help you understand.
Is character missing in business?
Oh, yeah, but...
No, let me explain to you what I mean.
We'll be here for 3 days.
No, let me explain to you what I mean.
Business.
Is it underrated when people are building out an organization to look at character first?
Way underrated, because it's listen, by the way, let's just be clear. The representation business in sports is a scarcity today. There's no more representation business. These people are not being represented. Right? What's happening is there's a VC component to it, there's a private equity component to it, and now the athlete is making so much money, and they know that they want the money. Social media has expedited this idea of, I want to be perceived to be living this way right now. And when you put the family dynamic in that position, the days that, first of all, private equity never wanted to be a part of the representation business, first of all. And now, even more than ever, it's the race to debt. So how fast can I get this kid in debt in the disguise of giving you $2 million, but I'm disguising that I'm giving you this money because you're just that talented. But really I'm giving you this money because I understand an exit strategy. And in most cases, it's 6 to 8 years, depending on if you're in VC or in private equity. But in the NBA, it's 4 years.
So you get your contract.
Exactly. So why wouldn't I what do I give a shit? I mean, we're on TV, but character, there's no character. I'm trying to get you in debt in disguise of, I'll give you whatever you want. I'll give you a Tesla that drives itself, you can get in the back, I'll give you whatever you want, I'll give it to you, right? And it's now even more so now than ever because of the financial component and the return on that. And again, here I am. I'm like the Sanford and Son of representation, because I'm in a meeting and I'm saying, no, you shouldn't think about it like that. You should. But I just came from a meeting, bro, where they told me they're gonna give me $3 million. I'm like, for what? What are they giving you $3 million for? You haven't even scored a basket. But they want the Rick Owens joints and all the other stuff.
You've always talked about trying to be ahead of the curve, and I think in the way that you've built your business, I don't think there's many agencies that have built communities, that have built brands. We always talk about those like rap labels of the 90s that we both grew up admiring, where when you were down with one of those labels, you would buy their clothing, you'd go to their parties, buy their music, drink the alcohol they sold. And it was a family, it was a sports team environment. You've built that with Klutch. How did you build that community around this brand? And was that part of kind of countering what you saw as those kind of broken systems within the business?
Absolutely. That's why we don't have business cards at Klutch. They don't exist. There was an emphasis on connectivity for sure, but we are the culture. That's who we are. I mean, we was overseas for too long, but overseas this summer, and people they knew Klutch. They would come up to me, they knew Klutch, and I was, you're always, it makes you feel good, obviously, and I want to work harder because now, there's opportunity there. But yeah, there was a connectivity. You want to build a community. And I just think it was timing too, like anything else, right? Like the story and timing and the results, you can't have one without the other. Like I needed all these dominoes to line up and obviously be able to knock them all down. But It's also the reason why I didn't name the company Rich Paul Sports.
Yeah.
You know, I thought that was yesterday's way of thinking about building any business, because what if the business didn't work? What if the representation part of the business didn't work? I just thought the name was really good. I didn't know if it was going to work or not. And I was riding past the Brown Stadium. I changed to C to a K because I just thought Klutch was just too
That, by the way, very similar to me calling Kevin in 2018 and saying, I think we need to start a business called Boardroom or something.
Exactly,
there.
and things just come, and then I started to think about, okay, well, what's the pillars there? And then I thought about what are some of the things you needed to cross over between actually the business and life. And that's when the knowledge, the longevity, the understanding, the trust, the commitment, and the honesty, all those things are pillars. Wherever you're at, it don't matter where you're at, you can rest assured you need those things as a foundation to be successful, and to just have clarity, right, from a mindset perspective. And then it went from there, and I realized something. I said, I can't beat the competition in all these other areas, but where I can beat them at is care. And that care transitioned into, hey, I'm just going to focus on getting guys 20 to 30% over market. I'll let them focus on marketing advances and all the other stuff. I'm going to focus on taking a guy like Eric Bledsoe and getting him more money than Kyle Lowry when Kyle Lowry was an all-star.
Yeah.
KCP called me after that.
Yeah.
And then it went from, and so, we was able to build a business, and then now do you stop there? No, you got into football, baseball, and now.
Well, let me ask you about that, because I obviously I think it's getting the money. I think it is the community that you've built and the brand that you've built. I think athletes take pride in wearing the apparel of Klutch, which you don't see with other agencies. You simply don't see it. But you did make a decision in 2019 that you didn't have to make, which was finding a partner in UTA and choosing to go there. An agency that I'm sure you had the pick of the litter, but also an agency that didn't necessarily have a very robust sports department at all.
No, they had none.
So what was the decision in that, and why, when you were already at the point you were at?
Well, again, going back before that question, going back to the whole Klutch thing, yeah, guys are proud to wear it. From a Klutch Sports Group perspective, that's totally different than my partnership with New Balance, but we can get into that later. But to answer your question, it was just really, Fair and I we always had this thing within the company that was, first of all, there's never a no. If you got a no from us, that means we exuded all energy and we couldn't come up with the answer. That's the only way it would be a no from us. And then the second thing was, I never wanted to be in a situation where a client called and we didn't have the resource. Now, we were fortunate enough to have this big web just based upon who we were as people, and we were connected around and we cultivated relationships. But still in all, I wanted to have that from an infrastructure perspective. And I had two choices. I'm either gonna go raise money and try to find the people, or find the people. And we focused on that. And yeah, we had the pick of the litter, but at the end of the day, I felt there was so much opportunity at UTA to build. As a blank canvas for us. And then I was really impressed by character and the integrity within the leadership, the people that were there for so many years. They were still there, were still coming to work every day. And they had to really build it, right?
Yeah.
And that place of entitlement through, oh, well, we've been the best for so long, here's my business card. That never allows you to get to, well, if you don't do this for us, you'll never get one of our clients again.
Yeah.
Like, if I heard somebody saying that within our company, I'd probably fire them on the spot if they ever said something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Because that tells me the entitlement that you have, and you're not really that great. Your business card costs a lot, but, that's about it.
So UTA ended up being a partner that allowed you, like you said, you have Klutch Sports Group, and you've gone on over the last few years to acquire agencies in different sports. You just most recently announced one of your acquisitions, and you also do have Klutch Athletics. While they are two separate companies, talk to me about a bit how you navigate the idea that Klutch Athletics is a partnership with New Balance. You are Rich Paul, the head of both of them. And there's athletes on Klutch Sports Group that you still do business with on a daily across the board in the apparel space.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure, and people didn't really understand. They still don't really get it quite yet. But when they were trying to do the iPhone, we didn't really get it either, right? You get it now. You can't live without it. But yeah, it was just one of those things where, you know, I don't do well in spaces where you say I can't do something or I shouldn't do something or you know, that shouldn't work. And so in terms of the two, again, the name was, you know how many times I tried to come up with a different name? And I was just like, and Chris Davis, who obviously runs New Balance, he was like, we'll just keep the name and they'll figure it out. Now, competition, because of the name, they're reluctant to take my money for their athletes, which is fine. And then I have to have a balancing act where I can't just go out and sign every player that Klutch Sports Group represent. But at the same time, what we're building and our focus on cross-training and things of that nature is separate, but it is an option if needed, when needed to sign. We really had to focus on NIL, which we've been doing, and just really creating awareness. And we're doing well, but I'm blessed to have a partner like New Balance, right?
Yep.
Because what's the odds of that you can have that partner to really help you from a distribution and manufacturing perspective? I mean, we were in 100 doors at the snap of a finger,
Yep.
which again was one of those things that started with my personal shoot at New Balance. And I think I had 22 million impressions in China, and it sold out in 45 minutes. And that opened up a whole nother thing.
So Klutch Sports Group has representation in the international football space, in baseball, in basketball.
Yeah, I went to Champions League final this year. It was incredible. It's my first time. I was like it's a real thing.
Yes.
By the way, the NFL needs to take, all sports teams need to take a page out of that book, because when you get a suite there, there's no chicken fingers and popcorn. I'm just being honest. Like, we pay all this money for these suites.
Well, that's how the Olympics were too.
But you actually sit down and have dinner. They would not give you anything till you sat down and had dinner.
That's not how the Olympics were. Yeah.
This is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty impressive.
Yeah. And Klutch Athletics, as we spoke about. And what was clear to me in reading your book, and I encourage everybody in here to read the book or listen to the book, because he does the entire voice and LeBron does the prologue, is that everything that you encountered, I could see your brain spinning while you were talking about what one win in craps was going to lead to 2 years later in the reputation that you got in the neighborhood as a dice player. So knowing that you now have this incredible sports agency, you have Klutch Athletics, you yourself just were announced today, have an exhibit that you're curating at Sotheby's, you're on the board of the LACMA, you've done such incredible things. But where is the vision now? How much longer do you want to be in the grind of representing talent? And what do you see for Klutch in the future, and what more can Klutch uncover?
Well, I think before you look external, you have to look internal, right? And so how do we get better as a company, right? Are we best practice all the time? Is something that, I mean, we have our summit next week. I have the pleasure of Bob Myers coming to speak at our summit. I'm looking forward to that. But that's where it starts first. Like, how do we get better? Like, how do we perfect our craft? That's what I'll be focused on more than anything. And then continue to scale, you know, continuing to reevaluate the landscape of sports. I mean, it's growing at a very rapid pace. And there's so many different components to it and verticals to it that we aren't a part of that I think we can build out. In addition to, you know, like you said, you know, I try to, as I'm on the board of Live Nation, on the board of LACMA, when I'm on these boards, designer brands, I'm trying to learn about all the industries and some of their characteristics and behaviors that made them successful, and really some of the mistakes that was made, because I think you learn so much from the mistakes. And mistakes aren't failures, they're experiences. A repeated mistake is a failure. But the initial mistake is like you're experiencing something and you're trying to gain knowledge or gain a better understanding. And so I'm not afraid to make the mistakes. Everything we've tried to put throughout our strategy has not worked to perfection. But just continuing to evolve. I'm not going to, just for the record, because you might have leaked something to one of these reporters about me going to be a part of a team. I'm joking, but be a part of a team and all that. No, I like where I'm at. I love the recruiting aspect of it. I love being the inspiration. You see, like, turning the agent perception from like, that's a shady guy, black cat, gray cat type of guy, which I like black cats, but it's like, and now you see it to where, no, kids want to be agents. My daughter is the reason why I did the cover of Sport. I didn't want to do that, by the way, but I'm glad I did. But I wasn't given the cover. I didn't know I was going to have the cover. But my daughter, when it came out, she was like, Dad, you got to embrace that, because that's it. Most kids aren't reading, we view. So the fact that you're there is an example. And she really made me feel really small. But just continuing to grow, man. Like I'm a toddler in this thing. Klutch is 12 years old. It's not like 50. So I'm just looking forward to what's next. And I couldn't be more proud of where it's not about Rich Paul no more. It started there, but now we got 130 staff members. Every day I'm looking at these young people in the office, and it's just like, that's the true success right there, giving people an option that didn't exist before. Because I can tell you this, the people that work in our office, corporate America wasn't looking to hire those people.
Yep.
And they couldn't get in these so-called mail rooms of these institutions that have been existing for so many years, because they don't have an uncle or a cousin or a chancellor that knew my grandfather, the whole thing.